No, my father didn't fight in the wars. He was a navigator on a spice freighter.
That's what your uncle told you. He didn't hold with your father's ideals, thought he should have stayed here and not gotten involved.
You fought in the Clone Wars?
Yes. I was once a Jedi Knight, the same as your father.
Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you? I'm no one.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you.
My Nerd World.
Just let it in.
It is My Nerd World, a Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Jon Justice, for this quick podcast today. I'll do my full podcast a little bit later on this week, but I finally got to watch the first 2 episodes of the latest Star Wars live-action streaming show of Ahsoka. Now, I say finally because I simply had to wait till later in the day. I didn't get to watch it on Tuesday night because I'm adulting and I got to go to bed early, and I had to wait for my son to get home to watch it. So I want to share my quick thoughts, and I wanted to sit down for just a few minutes and give an overview review of these first 2 episodes. And as I mentioned, I'll get into it further in a fuller episode in the next few days. A bit of background leading into Ahsoka. If you're familiar with the show, you know my thoughts on Star Wars, how much I love Star Wars, and how some of the live-action content has, left me wanting a bit more. I do love The Mandalorian. I think it's had its ups and downs, and certainly in the last season, it was very much a roller coaster ride, where I think the highs were really high, but the lows were pretty low. Obi-Wan Kenobi disappointed me greatly. Book of Boba Fett was just okay, although after watching Ahsoka, it has me clamoring for more live-action content. My expectations had really not been anywhere. I'd been on a bit of a dry spell personally as it comes to my desire to watch Star Wars. Now, that's not to say I haven't been watching Star Wars. I do, but probably not as much as I typically have been watching Star Wars. And so when it comes to leading up to Ahsoka, while I've been looking forward to the show, I really had not been anticipating it the way that I typically would be anticipating new Star Wars content. That really started to change for me over the course of the past week or so. One of the most recent episodes, the most recent episode I did of Ahsoka, I wondered how successful the show would be because of what I just mentioned, the tepid response to some of the other live-action Star Wars streaming shows, and the possibility that perhaps we've been getting an oversaturation of Star Wars. Heading into watching Ahsoka today, though, those feelings of nostalgia, that excitement of watching something new of Star Wars began to seep in the way that it typically does when I'm waiting for Star Wars. It was just a delayed reaction to how I typically approach new Star Wars content. I won't beat around the bush. I loved these 2 episodes. I absolutely loved them. It's the first time in a long time where I am clamoring to go back and immediately watch it again. We do ourselves a disservice as Star Wars fans. We overanalyze. That's an understatement, right? I did on the last episode where I, was sort of sharing my concerns with Ahsoka and if it was going to be able to achieve what it wanted to achieve. And I absolutely believe that it did. But I also recognize that this is very subjective for me as a fan who loves Rebels. Rebels is some of the, in my opinion, some of the best overall storytelling that has been done. I do personally think that Dave Filoni is the best, most capable successor to George Lucas, learning from the master himself. Most of everything he's done, I've really, really enjoyed. These 2 first episodes of Ahsoka were very much on par with Dave Filoni content. And from the opening shot, which many people have mentioned, and I will echo, was very reminiscent to A New Hope, with the ship falling, flying into screen. Before I get to that, though, I don't want to fail to mention the lead up to that. My son, Kyle, my 16-year-old, immediately noticed how everything was draped in red at the start of the episode, which I thought was an interesting choice. It really presented this air of foreboding. And then we get this new type of crawl that we hadn't seen before. And I have no idea whether or not this is going to be something that we will continue to see within Star Wars content. I really appreciated the intro that they did to the Solo film, to Solo, A Star Wars Story, where they used what Dave Filoni has used in the Clone Wars, of the font of A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away, in that very distinct blue. In Solo, they used that as sort of the opening crawl, with the somber music playing before we got into the introduction scene of Solo driving the speeder into the almost electric-styled Solo logo. Here, we got something very different. We got a crawl, but it was in red, flush up against the screen as it scrolled forward. It reminded me quite a bit of Blade Runner. But I thought it was very effective. The crawl was straight George Lucas from, any of the 6 movies that he directed, or, he was a part of, original trilogy and prequel trilogy. I found myself wondering if we could have actually have had the regular crawl, as we typically would, maybe be in red, but maybe it be in red instead of yellow, but I think it was really effective in using it in a different way. And I'm curious to see if we'll see this type of font being used. Perhaps this will be something that'll set the standard for live-action shows. And I hope this show does. Production quality, I thought it was on par with Andor, absolutely. And again, I don't want to get too far ahead. I just wanted to take less than 10 minutes and sort of share my quick thoughts. But I really loved it. I thought the action was fantastic. My curiosity, I won't say concerned. I wasn't really concerned. But Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera, I thought nailed the look. Still getting used to her acting style as playing Hera. Hera is one of my favorite characters. It's my favorite character in Rebels and one of my favorite characters in Star Wars, along with Ahsoka and Sabine as well. I love Rebels. It's a fantastic show. I told my wife as we were watching the second episode, man, I want all of Rebels now done in this style with these characters. Hera was the only one that I hadn't really landed on yet during the first 2 episodes of capturing the spirit of what Hera was in the TV show. But I also acknowledge that this could be a change in the character. The voice actress for Hera in Rebels was very, very distinct, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead obviously carries herself differently. The few moments where she brought out her nurturing side, which is such a key character trait of Hera, I began to see a bit more Hera. I actually thought we didn't get a lot of Ahsoka in this, and she was a bit subdued and somber throughout the entire 2 episodes. I think that's by design. I think we're going to see Ahsoka develop through the series and carry through to those final few episodes. We only have 6 episodes left of the series. It's an 8-part series. The standout to me was Sabine. I thought that the actress did a fantastic job as Sabine and really nailed the essence of that character from Rebels as well. There's a lot of nuances around the show that I'll talk about in the next episode. I enjoyed the Fallen Jedi, if you will. I thought that Morgan Elsbeth was playing up the character more so than when we were first introduced to her in the Ahsoka episode in The Mandalorian Season 2. The reveal, I already knew this, that she was once a Night Sister, I thought was interesting. You actually got to see a little bit of that green Night Sister magic when they were on the planet and they were unlocking the star map to find out where Grand Admiral Thrawn is. It was live action Rebels, and for that reason alone, I thought it was great. The only issue that I would say that I had with the 2 episodes was the pacing around some of the talking scenes. That being said, it wasn't anything that ruined it for me. If I'm just being critical of a part of the show where I was like, okay, we could maybe pick up the pace here a little bit. If we're comparing it to previous Star Wars, especially original trilogy Star Wars, I would say that it was pretty much on par. Again, as Star Wars fans, for me and others that do podcasts, we tend to go and overanalyze these things. But overall, I thought the action was great. The storytelling in and of itself is what I'll talk about more in the next episode. The setup was very, very compelling, and I'm beginning to get a better idea of what they're going to be doing within this series and how it relates and will eventually connect to the sequel trilogy, and I'll share with you my thoughts on that coming up in the next episode. But overall, if I were rating a 10 out of 10, I think I'd probably give episode 1 maybe an 8, and episode 2 perhaps a 9. Slightly shorter runtime on episode 2, but I felt that it had more key moments. And as I said, this is one of the first times in a while where I'm like, you know what? I know what I'm watching again this weekend. I really enjoyed it that much. And I'll repeat what I said before. This Star Wars fan was looking for live-action Rebels, and that's exactly what I got. I'm dying to see the Ghost. They're holding out on us. I knew they were going to. I was really hoping to see the ship in these first 2 episodes. But seeing the Phantom and, of course, seeing Chopper, which is always a joy in live action, has me excited again, man. I hadn't been excited for Star Wars in a while, and now I'm all hyped up on the Star Wars train again. So, if you want to share your thoughts between now and perhaps tomorrow or Friday when I record the next episode, talkshownerd@gmail.com, or leave a comment up on YouTube. But those are my quick thoughts on the episode, and I want to hear from you. What did you think of these first 2 episodes? Did it move you as much as it moved me? Was it as exciting for you as it was for me? And I'll definitely get into more my thoughts on the action, because I thought that the action set pieces were spot on. So looking forward to hearing from you. And again, expect a new episode to drop here in the next few days. So with that, I'll talk to you then. Bye.
The Force will be with you, always.
My Nerd World.